Hello and welcome to our SPOC, or Scrum Product Owner Certified course. Today, we will be learning about the first process, demonstrate and validate sprint. Let's see what are the inputs required to start the process. The source of input in this process is undoubtedly the Scrum core team. Moving on, another important source of input is the sprint deliverables. At the end of each sprint, a product increment or deliverable is completed. The deliverable should possess all features and functionality defined in the user stories included in the sprint and should have been tested successfully. Next source of input is the sprint backlog. The list of the tasks to be executed by the Scrum team in the upcoming sprint is called the sprint backlog. We have the done criteria as another important source of input to discuss now. Done criteria are a set of rules that are applicable to all user stories. A clear definition of done is critical because it removes ambiguity from requirements and helps the team adhere to mandatory quality norms. This clear definition is used to create the done criteria that are an output of the create prioritize product backlog process. A user story is considered done when it is demonstrated to and approved by the product owner who judges it on the basis of the done criteria and the user story acceptance criteria. The table shows an example of the done criteria. It is about a project to design the new variants of a popular sports car at LRA Limited. The done criteria listed for the project are as follows. The design is approved by the Technical Excellence Division. The prototype passes all wind tunnel tests mandated by the Aerodynamics Division. The design is cleared for production by the Intellectual Property Division. The design safety expectations are corroborated by the Safety Division's Design Safety Report. The cost estimation report for the design is approved by the Finance Division. Now, we're going to see the role of the user stories and acceptance criteria as a source of input in the process. Every user story has an associated acceptance criteria. User stories are subjective, so the acceptance criteria provide the objectivity required for the user story to be considered as done or not done during the sprint review. Acceptance criteria provide clarity to the team on what is expected of the user story, remove the ambiguity from requirements, and help in aligning expectations. The product owner defines and communicates the acceptance criteria to the Scrum team. In the sprint review meetings, the acceptance criteria provide the context for the product owner to decide if a user story has been completed satisfactorily. It is important and the responsibility of the Scrum Master to ensure that the product owner does not change the acceptance criteria of a committed user story in the middle of a sprint. The Scrum team must ensure that defined acceptance criteria are appropriate for the user stories and provide clarity regarding the requirements to the Scrum team. Acceptance testing refers to the assessment of the ability of the completed deliverable to meet its acceptance criteria. This provides information to the product owner to help make a decision about approving or rejecting the deliverable. When developing user story acceptance criteria, the following should be considered. Acceptance criteria should not be vague, ambiguous, or too generalized. Defined acceptance criteria should ensure that the team is able to verify that the outcomes are in alignment with the sponsor organization's goals and objectives. So we have our inputs ready. What are we waiting for? Let's see the tools available to make use of the inputs. The tool being used in this process is the Sprint Review Meeting. The Scrum core team members and relevant stakeholders participate in sprint review meetings to accept the deliverables which meet the user story acceptance criteria and reject unacceptable deliverables. These meetings are convened at the end of every sprint. The Scrum team demonstrates the achievements from the sprint, including the new functionalities or products created. This provides an opportunity for the product owner and stakeholders to inspect what has been completed so far and to determine if any changes should be made in the project or processes in subsequent sprints.
Another tool is user story acceptance and/or rejection. After user stories are completed by the Scrum team, they are made available to the product owner for review. The product owner can review the user stories as soon as each is complete, or can review them all in a sprint review meeting convened at the end of the sprint. The product owner accepts the user stories that satisfy the user story acceptance criteria and the done criteria, and rejects those that do not meet the criteria, with feedback about why a user story was rejected. If time is still available in the current sprint, rejected user stories are made available to the team to address the reasons for rejection, and are provided again to the product owner in the same sprint for an additional review. At the end of a sprint, any remaining rejected user stories should remain on the prioritized product backlog to be considered for completion in a future sprint.
Well, it's time to see the outputs of the process. The main output generated is the accepted deliverables. Deliverables which meet the user story acceptance criteria are accepted by the product owner. The objective of a sprint is to create potentially shippable deliverables, or product increments, which meet the acceptance criteria defined by the customer and product owner. These are considered accepted deliverables that may be released to the customer if they so desire. A list of accepted deliverables is maintained and updated after each sprint review meeting. If a deliverable does not meet the defined acceptance criteria, it is not considered accepted and will usually be carried forward into a subsequent sprint to rectify any issues. This is highly undesirable because the objective of every sprint is for the deliverables to meet the criteria for acceptance. So with this, we've come to an end of the video segment featuring the first process in the review and retrospect phase. Stay tuned because you have to learn the second process too. We'll see you in the next video on Retrospect Sprint. Thanks for watching.